Hey guys, I put up a video in August of 2022 and I have to redo the video and give you updates in the video. And it's important I do because the cop here, and I missed this. I missed this in the first part. In 2022, I put up a video about Marcell Ozuna, who is a left fielder for the Atlanta Braves at the time, and he got stopped for a DUI. I ended up bringing, and you're going to see in the video, I ended up bringing a 40-year ENT surgeon, marijuana doctor, and a former prosecutor who is one of the best attorneys I know. She now works for Alpazar Law. And I will tell you something on this video that I missed it. At the end of the video, you're going to see what happens to this young man, and you're going to say, wait, wait, wait. But let's go right from the top of the video. I'll start the video again from back then because the interview was great. And there's really, really important information in this video, guys. I want you to pass it on. Anybody you know who drinks, listen, like the attorney said in here, probably everybody could have got hit with this charge. Whoever drinks, got behind the wheel, even one beer or whatever, and what he said, there's really good information here, and I don't want you to take that lightly. So I'm a highlight it more as I go into the video. But you got to watch the whole video, and then I'm going to come back here and tell you what happened. I can't believe I missed this, and I apologize for that. But if you haven't liked, subscribe. I'm back. I'm having a lot of fun. Pass these on. This one's very important to pass on. All right, check it out. Welcome, everybody. This is Larry Lawton. I got a great video for you guys today. This is the Marcell Ozuna video, who's a baseball player who got caught with a DUI. And I'm going to explain this whole case. I brought two professionals in. I brought a ENT with 40 years experience, and I brought a prosecutor and a sports attorney as well to make sure we get this one right, you know, because I don't like when police abuse power in any way. And I'm not so sure it's just abuse. I just want to make sure everybody understands what we are doing. Before I get started, everybody, check me out. YouTube member programs, Patreon. Check us out on Discord. Check out merch out. Gangster Redemption, doing great. We got the cigar, the Crooked Diamond, man. Check our website out at crookeddiamondcigar.com. That's crookeddiamondcigar.com. And don't forget about our free giveaway. I'm giving away a free cruise for two, flying in from anywhere in the United States. And that is happening on November 18th. All you got to do is sign up on both of my YouTube channels, subscribe if you probably are already, and also sign up for our newsletter, and you will be involved in this thing. Now, let me get and premise this whole entire video. This video is about a body cam footage that I saw of Marcell Ozuna, who is a left fielder for the Atlanta Braves, all-star, very polite young man. I was very nice to see this. You're going to see this in the video well. I brought two people in because when I saw this video, I could not believe that this man was arrested for a DUI. And I want to preface this. You Atlanta Braves fans, you should be checking yourself. Because I'll tell you what, I am so disappointed in you people booing somebody for something you have no idea. And when the prosecutor comes on, we're going to talk about that as well. So you guys got to check yourself. You got to know the facts. Don't judge people before the facts come out. Just because you're arrested does not mean you're guilty. That's number one. Okay, my first guest is Dr. Frank Filiberto. Dr. Filiberto has 40 years as an ENT surgeon. He's also board certified in plastics, and also he is one of the leading pot doctors in the United States. In fact, we're going to get into his whole entire resume on impairment because they all watch this video again, and we're going to watch it again right here in the studio. So first of all, Dr. Filiberto, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Lawton.
Well, we're going to go over a video, and I'd like to get your professional opinion. You have 40 years as an ENT surgeon?
Board certified otolaryngologist, which is ENT.
As a ENT surgeon, did you deal with equilibrium, sight, eyes, ears? What does an ENT actually do?
Well, we're the people you go to if you're dizzy or disoriented or having problems with equilibrium and so forth. So it's the ENT/otolaryngologist that takes care of these problems.
I'm going to consider you an expert on the video we're going to do because we're going to be talking about equilibrium. We're going to be talking about the eyes.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to talk about certain tests that are given by police officers.
Yes, sir.
And obviously, as a person who's been an ENT for 40 years, have you done brain surgery?
Yes.
Ear surgery?
Yes.
Eye surgery?
Yes.
Wow. I think, if I was a juror and if I was a judge, I'd qualify you as a expert witness. And I think you are, obviously. We're going to get into this case. And I want to preface you by giving you the story to begin with. And I also have in the studio everybody who's watching this right now and is coming on next. So don't miss this. I have a former prosecutor who is an amazing attorney and also a sports management attorney and handles athletes as well. So she's going to be a really good addition on the law. Obviously, the doctor is going to give us his professional knowledge on the test that was given in this case. So I think this is going to be very interesting. First of all, Doc, let's open up the video, and I'm going to open it up when he gets stopped. Okay? I want you to watch this.
You see the tip of this pen?
Yeah.
The blue light, right?
Yeah.
All I want you to do is follow this with your eyes, okay? Leave your head still.
All right.
You understand?
Yeah.
All right. Watch the blue light.
Yeah, I saw it.
You can see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
All right. Leave your head still.
Yeah, I saw it.
Watch the light, man.
I saw the light. I saw the light. I saw the light.
Listen, look at the light. Don't look at
Oh,
me.
I had to look at the light?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you see the blue light?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Don't move your head. Just follow it with your eyes.
Okay. Another moment. It's okay.
Okay, Doc, we are watching right now the eye test that this officer gives. He stops this young man saying he was speeding. The man did admit that he had a couple of beers. I don't understand how long that meant, but we'll ask the attorney all about that as well. In your case, as a professional, I want you to watch this again one more time, and I want you to tell me, is this test done correctly, and what does it show?
The test is to check for nystagmus, which is a horizontal or a vertical tremor you see in the eyes with somebody that has a brain injury or is intoxicated or is having some type of thing going on with their brain. It could be neurological. It could be anything. But it's you look at the eyes in various gaze positions, and you will see a tremor in the eyes. It's sort of it's a fast and a slow movement. Fast one way, comes back slow. Fast the other way, comes back slow. It's called nystagmus, right? And the way you determine the nystagmus is you have that individual, which you could see in the video, where the officer is having him look at his eyes in lateral gaze movements to the right, to the left, and at the same time he's using a flashlight to look at whether or not his eyes are bouncing up and down or bouncing sideways.
So they're not looking at dilation of any sort in
No,
an
sir.
eye.
No, sir.
Okay. So that's something that I didn't know. I thought they did look at dilation. So you're watching this test. Now, you saw the video from the beginning.
Yes.
Obviously, I think there's a little bit of a language barrier. And it seems like he didn't understand the test. Did you see that?
Well, it was obvious from the beginning, if you look at the test, that when the officer asked him to follow the flashlight, he just kept staring straight. He kept saying, "I see the light. I see the light." So from the onset, he did not understand the test.
Well, obviously, I didn't hear the officer also say, hey, listen, follow this light. He did eventually say that. So he was actually doing. What struck me clearly is he didn't move. He didn't waver. He didn't go left to right. He's standing with his feet together. Obviously, that is showing that he's following. Is he going too far with that light?
Well, when you do a gaze nystagmus or gaze where you're looking for the actual movement of the eye with what's called a fast and a slow phase, where it will beat fast one way and come back to the middle, and then beat again back to the same area and come back to the middle. When you do that, naturally you take the flashlight and you examine them and you move the light to the left, let's say, then you move the light to the right. Where the mistake occurred in this particular situation in evaluating the test that was being administered, the officer moved him to an extreme gaze position. In other words, you're supposed to really move to check for nystagmus 3/4 of the way, where you don't move it all the way into what's known as the lateral rectus muscle. There's a muscle you have on both sides of your eyes, where if you move it all the way over, eventually that muscle is going to go into spasm, and you're going to precipitate gaze, right? So
A twitch.
a twitch. So if you notice, he kept doing it to where he's going to exhaust those muscles, and he was going to an extreme on both sides.
It seemed to me as a layman, again, that's why I brought a professional like yourself and the prosecutor coming in, and former prosecutor and the sports attorney, is he seemed like he did it so long. It wasn't once or twice. Would once or twice be sufficient to see if there was a twitch in the eye?
If that individual was compromised, his central nervous system was compromised, such as his brain from intoxication, you'd get it right away on one basically movement. He did it for an extremely long time, which then you're talking about fatigue now. Now you're talking about a situation where he's going all the way to one side, all the way to the other side, all the way to one side. So obviously he didn't see anything, or the intention was to precipitate the nystagmus.
It seems like he kept looking for something to go the next. If I was a police officer and I did that test and it happened right away, I would stop. Okay, I got that. Next one, next one, next one. There's three things I was talking to you before the show that actually, I guess, would show somebody's impaired. You mentioned three things. It's the brain, the eye, and the ear. Can you explain?
There are three things that control your stability or your equilibrium. And it would be your eyes, right? It would be your brain, and it would be your ears. Your ears have levels in them called semicircular canals, the little levels that are in your ear. So on head movement, all right, you get this liquid in the ear that will balance you out as you move, right? Your eyes also send signals to your brain that there's some type of there's a head movement going on, where the brain will compensate for that. A perfect example of the way you solve that problem, when somebody is dizzy, for instance, if somebody is extremely dizzy, what you ask them to do is you ask them to stare at a dot on the wall. If they stare on a dot on the wall, their eyes are able to overcome the dizziness, right? So the eyes play a very important part in the dizzy. The ears do, and then you have the brain, right? And that's what we're testing for. Basically, when you have somebody that has a brain impairment or a neurological condition, for instance, people that have brain tumors, their eyes are jumping all over the place.
Question on it. So there's three things you look for.
Right.
Again, the eyes, the ears, and the brain.
Yes.
If a person is impaired in any way, whether it's with drugs or alcohol, can they function at all with one or two of those not working?
You could function with one of them not working. You can't function when two of the three is not working.
So if a person is impaired, where does the impairment go to? Does it go to the brain? Does it go to the eyes? Does it go to the ear? How does it work?
It goes to the brain usually if it's an intoxication situation. It will go to the brain. If your brain is compromised, all right, then you will see in your eye movement. That's where they check the nystagmus. You will see, because the eyes are trying to compensate for the brain problem, right? So that's where the nystagmus comes in, the twitching of the eyes, because the eyes want to bring you back to normal. So you'll get that twitch to one side, and it comes back to normal, because the eye is trying to bring you back to an equilibrium state. That's what's happening.
Okay, we're going to move on to the second test. Now, this test, again, I watched this video probably 20 times. First of all, I couldn't understand the instructions per se. And then they had this man go on a straight line, and go straight down the line, back and forth. And they asked them to look down. Does that mean anything in this case?
It means a lot in this particular case. As I explained to you, with the eyes will give you a spatial orientation. All right, the eyes are very important for maintaining your balance. And what he did was, right, the individual they was doing the test on lost his spatial orientation by having him just stare on the ground, right, rather than look at the time and space that he was in. So looking down, right, would compromise that ability for his eyes to overcome any brain problem he may have.
Now, this man had one foot in front of another.
Yes.
So that alone, I tried that. I mean, listen, guys, everybody knows I get a little fucked up now and then myself. But I saw that and I couldn't do it. And I'm straight as an arrow. and I couldn't do it. Is it normal for most people not to be able to do that?
Well, again, it depends on the age, naturally. I mean, at my age, I probably would not be able to do it.
Call me an old fuck, Doc.
Yeah. Well, not you, but I'm a lot older than you are. I think the situation is that, you know, we are dealing with an athlete that's finely tuned here. I think the important issue here is that he didn't fall off the line even when they compromised his eyes. Right now, you basically took 2 out of the 3 mechanisms. Supposedly, if he was impaired. If he really was impaired, now you have his brain impaired, and now you take away his eyes as far as his spatial orientation by having him staring at the ground, right?
So if he was impaired, would he not be able to do that?
He would not have been able to do it.
He would not be
He would
able.
not
So
been able to do that.
That's test number 2. Let's look at this test, Doc. I want you to look at this for a minute.
You can lift either foot, okay, of your choice, right or left. I'm going to lift up my left foot. You're going to hold it approximately 6 inches from the ground. Look down at your raised foot, hands by your side, and you're going to count out loud. 1001, 1002, 1003. All right, and keep counting until I tell you to stop.
Okay.
Hold on. And do you understand?
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you know when to start, okay?
Okay. No problem.
You can begin.
1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 1006, 1007.
Okay, Doc, you just saw a man count to 20 with his foot 6 inches off the ground, his hands by his side, feet together, and literally not budge. And again, they had him look down.
Yeah. And that's called proprioceptor response. Basically, your brain and spinal cord are connected. Your spinal cord is your brain, basically, right? And they have him 1 foot up, right? They're if his brain was compromised, all right, his whole balance from his spinal cord to his brain, he would have not been able to do that. He would have not been able to do that. And not that he didn't do it, he didn't even twitch for 20 seconds, as you can see. There wasn't even a movement. So it didn't show any impairment to me.
Okay, Doc, we went through the medical parts of this test that I think is very important for you to give the audience a really medical opinion on. Obviously, as an expert ENT surgeon for 40 years, you've seen impaired people. You're also I guess you are the leading doctor in the state of Florida for marijuana.
Correct.
And you went to schools or you one of the only doctors that went to a specific marijuana school too?
I did a whole semester, 40 credit hours in California on marijuana.
Wow.
Medical marijuana.
And that's besides your ENT training of 40 years,
besides
your
my
plastics.
Besides my plastic training, yes, sir.
So obviously, as a person who deals with the eyes, the ears, did anything strike you, anything on this thing that man was impaired at all?
No, nothing at all.
So you'd state your professional reputation that man was not impaired?
Yes, sir.
Wow, it's hard to fight that. Why do you think, and I'm going to ask for an opinion now, and I know it's just your opinion. You came here for your expertise, obviously. Thank you for that. We're going to bring the attorney on to ask some legal questions, but with your case, where do you think the mistake was made in this case?
I think there was I don't want to say a certain prejudice as far as him drinking, but I think there was a language barrier. And I think the language barrier was misinterpreted as him. When someone doesn't understand questions, they automatically think, well, he doesn't understand the questions because he's drunk, right? There was an obvious language barrier from the beginning. The individual was totally alert and oriented to his time and space. If you saw when he got out of the car, he was polite. He raised his hands, just as people are taught to do, to be polite to policemen and follow their rules. People that are drunk don't follow rules.
That is true. Not that I haven't been drunk once or twice in my life, but Doc, what impressed me about this young man was, one, you said it, he was polite. He followed the rules. He didn't waver. I look at myself as a juror, and that's how I look at things, pretty much common sense wise. And there's not a chance in heck. And I'm going to talk to an attorney about it. I'm sure she's going to have her opinions. But she's a sports attorney too, so she deals with athletes, so she's going to understand that too. I didn't see anything where this man was impaired personally. Now, I've been around a lot of people who have been impaired on drugs, on alcohol, and whatever. There was a part in the video, and I'll go with the attorney as well, just for your opinion. He did say he had a couple of drinks, or 2 or 3. That's kind of his admission. I even think that was a communication barrier. So after he does the 3 tests, in your professional opinion, he totally passed them 100%. Why do you think that they went to the next step of a DUI, a breathalyzer test? I'm sorry.
Well, I think that the system has been created, all right, where we are all taught by our attorneys, all right, never to blow, right? I think the only thing this policeman had going for him is knowing that he was not going to blow, and that gave him the opportunity to lock him up. In my opinion, that's only my opinion.
And I understand that, Doc. You're allowed. This is my show. This is Larry Lawton, Jude Leaf, and opinions are allowed. But your professional opinion means more to our audience than anything, because you are a professional. Listen, I qualified you in front of a jury. I have 40 years as an ENT surgeon who deals with equilibrium and balance and looking at the eye test you opened my eyes with. I did not know that. What is your recommendation on tests to somebody who is stopped by the police?
There's a perfect test that they can teach police, right? It's called the Romberg test, right? Remember from the original discussion, which we talked about, there are 3 things that get you to maintain your balance: your eyes, your ears, and your brain, which is also your spinal cord, your brain, right? What happens is if you have one of the 3 that are out, you can still maintain your balance. If you have 2 of the 3 that are out, you're going to fall over. So what Romberg does, right? I do this now. Every patient comes to my office. If they come in and they have headaches or dizziness, what I do is I have them stand up and have them close their eyes. If they close their eyes, they lose the ability of their eyes to equilibrate what the brain is, and they'll fall over if they have a brain or an ear problem. You lose 2 out of 3. Once you lose 2 out of 3, you're in trouble. Right?
So a person who loses 2 out of 3 could no way do what this man did.
Could no way do what he did. And they basically took away his eyes when they had him look down when he was walking.
So they've taken away one of the 3, and
he still functioned.
Yeah. And well, I saw that too as well, Doc. I just want to, again, emphasize thank you very much for coming on this show. We're going to bring an attorney on now. I'd like you to sit in on it, maybe bring you back for a question or 2. But in your professional opinion, I just want to emphasize this one more time. This man was not impaired in any way in your mind.
The sorry thing about this is he passed each test with flying colors. And then you threw a wrench at him with the breathalyzer test, knowing that nobody does a breathalyzer test. There are very few people who do. And if they do and they blow 0, he's still going to lock you up because it's the policeman's judgment of impairment. It's too subjective.
We're going to get into that with the attorney here right now. We're going to now bring the attorney on. Thank you, Doc. I really want to
thank you very much, Mr. Lawton.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate
for
it.
coming on. That's Dr. Frank Filiberto, everybody. Now I'm going to bring on Mrs. Moia, who is a attorney, former prosecutor, has prosecuted, I guess, hundreds of DUI cases. She is an accomplished attorney. Now she's a sports attorney as well. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Larry.
Ms. Moia, let me just give a little bit of background. How many DUI cases, both in the misdemeanor division and the felony division, do you think you handled?
Hundreds.
Hundreds.
From inception to all the way to a jury verdict.
Okay, well, we're going to go over the same videos. You saw them already, but we're going to go over them again because I think there's different opinions here. Also, I'd like to, you went to what school?
University of Florida. Go Gators.
Go Gators. Okay. Mine was University of Hard Knocks, so I was a pretty go Hard Knocks. But no.
So you went to college.
Yeah, that's my college. But, you know, I'm a common sense guy, Ms. Moia. Obviously, we talked a little bit beforehand, but a lot of stuff you're going to highlight my audience on. First of all, you watched the test that the doctor just explained.
I did.
Did you see those tests many times?
Hundreds of times. Videos, I've examined so many DUI videos I can't even count.
Okay, and as a prosecutor, when you look at those, do they mean something?
Oh, they mean everything. The video's everything.
So you saw it. I'm going to get into it a little bit first here because there were a couple of things I looked at that kind of threw a wrench at me. When Marcell Ozuna got out of the car, he put his hands up.
He did. You know, getting pulled over by an officer, no matter who you are, it's an intimidating experience. And I think that's very telling that he knew exactly what was going on compared to somebody who's maybe impaired, wouldn't be so aware of his surroundings. He immediately gets out of the car. Yep. And he knows the situation.
He put his hands up. Actually, that's sad. I hate to see that we come to the point in the United States when a cop pulls you coming out with your hands up like you're guilty of something.
Sure, you know, but it really just it reflects him as a person too. You know, he's respectful. He understands what's going on, and I think it sheds some good light on him. As we further see. See,
here's my issue, and I'm going to go into this with the prosecutor. As a prosecutor, and I know you're not a prosecutor anymore, you actually handle professional athletes. Are professional athletes different than regular people? Do you handle them? I know you treat them like you were telling me, like your family.
Of course, you know, I think society views them as at a higher standard, and potentially this officer who pulled him over that night. You know, but they are just people. I mean. You know, yes, they're professional athletes, but they're expected. They've got a lot of pressure. They're expected to be role models in our communities, and but they are just people at the same time. I have a question now. We're going to keep going on the question. Now, you saw the tests. If you saw those tests as a prosecutor you were a prosecutor in Pinellas County, Florida, Yep.
which is Tampa Bay area.
Yep, St. Petersburg, Clearwater,
Tampa. That's the west coast of Florida for everybody. Pretty big area, obviously.
Yes.
Professional athletes all over the place there.
Yeah.
When you saw the tests and actually heard the doctor, how much of an influence, one, would the doctor be on you? Two, how about the videos yourself as seeing hundreds of them?
Yeah. So when you're sitting down as a prosecutor and an officer brings you the case, the DUI case, you're taking a look at the video and thinking, can I prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt? And that's the thing that has to be in your mind the entire time. And watching that video, my recommendation would have been to not file formal charges for DUI on that video. But it's the totality of the circumstances, which we will get to.
Well, we're going to get to that question. Obviously, when we were watching the tape, we watched it a few times already, and you saw him admit that he had 2 or 3 beers.
Oh, you had anything to drink tonight?
Yeah, but I'm fine.
What'd you have?
Eh?
What have you had to drink?
Just beer, a couple beers.
Obviously, he's a big guy. I was kind of confused of why the cop wouldn't ask him when he took him, how long ago did he have a drink. Do an investigation. If you're going to do an investigation, do a complete investigation.
Sure. I think that admission is really what precipitated the entire thing and made the officer go further. Unfortunately, you know, Marcell was being honest, which I think a jury would appreciate and respect. It's tough when somebody makes that type of an admission. The officer's already going to have it predisposed in his mind. I've got him for your DUI.
Well, obviously, what you saw, what the doctor actually explained, and what I saw, I think everybody sees, this man's not impaired because you couldn't do that. And you agree with that? So what consequences could the officer or should he face in your department as a prosecutor, which people don't know are above the police? Is there any consequences to a police officer who does stuff? Because you could ruin a person's life, especially myself, a celebrity or somebody of that nature. It's going to be in the papers. It's all over. Again, I was pretty pissed that the fans of Atlanta booed this man without knowing the facts. Can you elaborate on that?
I think people forget that in the justice system, luckily, we do have different tiers. The officer brings the case to the state, and it's ultimately the state's decision of whether to file formal charges or not. Officers make mistakes. They do. Depending on their training and experience. And it's so important that these officers are properly trained on how to properly investigate any crime, especially a DUI. DUI is a very special type of crime. It is one that all of us can probably say we've committed. So it's even that much more important that officers are properly trained on it.
Not me. I'm only kidding on that, of course. The reason I ask you that, and it's important to me, is because just sometimes the accusation, whether child molestation or a DUI, obviously I think a DUI, it can be worse than a felony, a minor felony, because of the consequences with insurance and driving and everything else.
And the embarrassment. It can be
Now,
embarrassing.
we're going to get into that, too, about this case. We are going to get into this case a little bit deeper. Now, as a prosecutor, and you've seen hundreds of cases, would you recommend to that department to let's retrain these people? Or why give those tests? Obviously, in our eyes and everything we saw, he passed those tests. I mean, I can't believe the man didn't even waver one bit. I can't stand up sober as a judge and do that.
Yeah.
Now, he did it. Now, if he was impaired, obviously, I don't think he could do it. And I don't think you'd do either. And if I was on a jury, I'm sure I would acquit, and I'd be the jury foreman for sure. But in this case, how do we train the officers? And I really feel for this guy. And that's why I'm doing this video, because at what point are we going to start holding people accountable, police, for in fact could ruin a man's career?
It's got to start from the top. Training is so important. Officers have to be trained on how to handle these situations. And any good officer knows it's the totality of the circumstances, especially when it comes to DUI. Not just how he performs on the tests, but just his demeanor, how he's speaking, the language barrier. A well-trained officer would have been able to see this guy's not impaired.
This guy's not impaired. Move on your way. Give him a speeding ticket if that's what you're going to give him. Obviously that we don't have the dash cam, obviously, but and I can't see that man driving erratic. I mean, he could have been looking for a phone. He could have been doing a lot of things in a car.
There's various reasons as to why somebody's driving the way they are. And that does not mean that somebody's impaired because they're speeding, or even I think the officer in the beginning of the video said he was failing to maintain his lane. That's a common phrase used by a lot of officers to be able to develop probable cause or reasonable suspicion.
Yeah, a little bit. I get that. Believe me, I get that. To this day, I actually get nervous when a cop's behind me, and I've been out of prison. I've, been recognized on Congress and a lot of other stuff. And I'm an honorary police officer, and I get mad at it because I am one who believes that the cops should be part of the community. Now, we're going to go into another thing. What in that video struck you very either unprofessional or even a crime, maybe by the officer? Is there anything in that video that really struck at you?
Towards the end of the video, it was quite interesting, and I felt for Marcell in this moment. He's arrested for DUI. Now has his mother, who's coming on scene, having to see him in the back seat of his vehicle with the handcuffs on, and he's got to use the restroom. And the officer certainly gets him out and has him proceed to relieve himself in the bushes.
Is that a crime?
Public urination is a crime, so you're essentially asking this man who's been arrested now for DUI to go ahead and urinate in public, which is a misdemeanor.
So he's under the police custody, so it's the police officer's fault for doing that, correct?
I've never seen that before.
Go to a bathroom. It seems like they were in a plaza of some sort.
Yeah, there's plenty of businesses around where you could have had this man relieve himself in a proper location, not in the bushes on the side of the road.
Especially a professional athlete who's famous, if you want to call that. And here he is relieving himself with people looking at. They even said earlier that there's a crowd forming. Now you got him peeing in the bushes. That's kind of really struck me as so unprofessional.
I agree.
To do that. And at what point now will that police officer be brought to this? Now, is it the prosecutor who's got to prosecute this? The cop has no say.
Yeah, the cop will be the main witness in the case. So the cop will take the stand, and he'll be the main witness for observing what he observed that night and what he believed were signs of impairment of Marcell.
So you as a prosecutor would interview the cop too, interview Marcell?
Marcell has a right to remain silent, and he has his Fifth Amendment rights. So,
and I think he will, because his attorney's going to tell him that.
Yep, so
would you? Because you deal with athletes. You tell them to shut up?
I would. I would have told him to not say a word the moment he was pulled over. But he was a very polite guy, and he really did a great job with the cop.
I really believe that also. So as a prosecutor, you would interview the police officer. And did you, you always hear about the prosecutors always siding with the police. Is that true?
No. No, not necessarily. Actually, I think the most effective prosecutors challenge the police. And I had the real benefit when I was a prosecutor that I got to do all my live intake. So I got to sit down across the table from every officer, every crime that was brought before me, and do my examination of the officer right then and there. And we had a good working relationship in that way. And again, that's where the checks and balances come in. And it's really important. So we would challenge each other, and I would be able to help and teach the cops, here's where you got it wrong. Here's the law. You've got to do it this way next time if we're going to get this right.
Is it suffice to say that I'm trying to ask you you don't know the whole case. You know what you saw. Obviously, as a sports attorney, you deal with athletes and you know how great shape they're in, what they can do. Obviously, as far as the doctor is concerned, it doesn't matter how old you are. You could not do that if 2 of your 3 functions are done. I mean, obviously, in 40 years, I'm not going to question him.
What struck me most about what the doctor said, too, was the Romberg test. That is an option for the cops to give. They are trained to do the Romberg test. So this officer who has done these 3 exercises and is saying, wait a minute, this guy's passing these exercises. Let me try one more. Romberg's there for their ability to do. So I've really found that quite interesting that the doctor brought that up.
Have you seen the Romberg test done by cops?
I have. Yes, I have.
Another question, he refused a breathalyzer test. Now, I'm told, I have an attorney, obviously, and my attorney always said, Larry, if you get stopped, I don't care if you had 1 drink, no drinks, do not take a breathalyzer. Is there a reason? You saw the breathalyzer test that the cop was bringing out. Have you seen zeros be arrested?
I have, sure, because there's other reasons why somebody can be arrested for impairment, not just DUI under the influence of alcohol, but for drugs or for other reasons. So if the cop is recognizing that somebody's impaired, it doesn't necessarily mean under the influence of alcohol. So the breathalyzer only determines alcohol, your breath alcohol content.
Is that test that he was getting a good test?
No. So I never like seeing those portable breathalyzer tests is what they call them, which he pulled it. And you see in the video, he pulls it out of his car. It's a portable breath test.
I have one right here in the office.
Oh, do you? Should we test you?
No. No. I do have one here. And if people come to my office and this studio and are impaired, I won't let them drive. I'll make them take an Uber.
So the biggest thing when administering breathalyzer tests, and that prosecutors always have to be concerned over, is that breathalyzer, the instrument, calibrated? So at the police station, there's the legit breathalyzer test, and it's been calibrated. There's very strict criteria. They even have people that come in and calibrate it. I think it's monthly. Those portable breathalyzer tests are not calibrated. They're not trustworthy.
We do know that because in this place, we actually had another person come in here and he had a breathalyzer test, my nephew, and he has one in his car. He's the one I wanted to buy one. And we had 2 different readings. Yeah. I mean, we were both drinking and we wanted to see what they were. Yeah. And we had both 2 different readings.
It's not reliable.
From each one. And so it's kind of not reliable.
They're not reliable in court either.
Do you recommend to your sports clients to not take a breathalyzer test?
I would recommend not to.
Right. Oh, so you also believe that he did the right thing?
Well, it's difficult because, again, even the breathalyzer tests that are at the police station, we've always have concerns over whether they're calibrated or not. So the reliability of them is in question. And oftentimes, like you said, when somebody's blowing 000s or they blow over a 0.08, is it reliable? So it puts people in a really tough situation. And the law in Florida is if you refuse breath, you're going to give up your license for a year. And that's a gamble that people have to play.
And I have a question for you with that. That's a very important question to me. If the prosecutor drops this case, which I hope they do on just for justice, I really do, does he still lose his license?
Yes.
How can we correct this? This is a wrong done to a citizen. And I look at this a little bit different than maybe a prosecutor, or obviously you're a sports attorney, so you talk to your athletes a lot. Here, a person didn't do anything wrong. He was polite. He did everything right. He just refused. He listens to his attorney, and he's going to lose his license for a year.
Yeah. The flip side of it is, Larry, driving under the influence is a very serious offense, and
we all agree with that.
And a lot of people die because being hit by drunk drivers. So we can't minimize the law in that way, and that's why the law is developed how it has. It is a very dangerous offense, and it's one that a lot of people in society commit. So that's why the implied consent law was really developed to protect society. So it's really a tough judgment call to tell our legislatures, well, we're not going to consequence people. So it's a tough line. It really is.
I understand, and everybody who knows me here, I always tell people make good choices on every show I do. That's one of my biggest things. Make good choices, everybody. Please, we don't want to see you go to prison or hurt somebody, obviously. You know, that's even worse. You got to live with that for the rest of your life. But there has to be some checks and balances on a police officer who does that. And now this man loses his license for not, maybe if the case is dropped, like you're a prosecutor, you say, wait a minute, you're whacked out, man. You're a cop. You had a bad day. You're just an asshole. And you arrest this guy. And he says, no, I'm not blowing. And all of a sudden, he loses his license.
There are, and let me just back up a little bit. It's really it's the DMV that makes that decision whether someone to lose their license or not. So if you have a good attorney, the attorney will go before a DMV hearing and hopefully be able to get your license back for you. So there are some other loopholes that can hopefully happen. So there are some areas in the law that can help you.
Do you handle YouTubers as well? Because I might need an attorney.
You have my number.
I do have your number, and I might need an attorney someday. And obviously, I know you handle athletes.
Yeah.
All athletes? Do you?
All athletes. I was an athlete growing up my entire life. Every single sport. I grew up under the boxing ring. I played basketball, ran track.
I read in your bio that you are a Heisman Trophy winner for the Brevard County
for high school. Yep.
Which is not a small task. There's 550,000 people here, and you were a Heisman Trophy. That means the best athlete in the county.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. I mean, I guess you're not gonna. I guess you can go 1-on-1 with these basketball players, man.
We could try.
I love it. So, one more question before I let you go. What do you recommend he do now? What would you say to him if he was your client?
Keep being the good guy that you are, and just try to stay focused in your career. It doesn't end here. Just because you were arrested for a DUI, your life isn't ruined. Yes, it is a small blip, but he's got such a bright future. He's had such a great career. Try to just focus on that. Focus on his family. He'll be just fine.
You know, it's funny because I talk about that as well. Getting out of prison at 46 years old and starting over, it's not over. And we know that. But I just hate to see a man from another country come here and be, I guess, treated that way. Again, you and the doc, two very accomplished people in your fields, are saying that this man was not impaired. Again, I want to thank you, Ms. Moia, for coming on board and giving your thing. Is there anybody you'd like to talk to? Is there anything you'd like to say to some of the athletes out there or people that, are running into situations like this? Because we don't get advice like this too often.
It's tough. You got to remain polite. Just remember that officers are people too. It's an intimidating situation for them as well to pull over a famous athlete. And they may have some other.
Don't let them off the hook here. Who's intimidated when you get pulled over.
It is the person being pulled over, but you've got to recognize officers got a tough job too. And staying polite like Marcell did really goes a long way, and any jury, which I hope it would never get there for him, is going to recognize that. So I think that's always the best thing for any athlete. Stay polite. If the officer's got a predisposition and you're just going to be arrested no matter what, unfortunately, you're just going to have to accept it in that moment. Hire yourself a good attorney, and we'll take care of it for you.
Your number? Yeah, I'll have your number in. I'll have your number in this video and your contact if that's okay. Also, I agree with what you said. It really hurts me because I don't care how the person acted. Let's say he was an asshole. He wasn't, but let's say he was an asshole. He's still not drunk.
And being an asshole doesn't mean you're guilty.
Exactly. I talk about that all the time. Even people in prison who did bad things, they should be treated right. It's called the Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment, which you know about. I want to thank you again, Ms. Moia, for coming on and giving a prosecutor's view and a sports attorney's view.
Former prosecutor,
obviously, and a sports attorney now, and very accomplished attorney. We wish you luck in your career, too.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for having me.
Have a great day.
There you have it, guys. You heard from a 40-year ENT surgeon and medical marijuana doctor in the state of Florida, one of the first, I think. And also you heard from a former prosecutor who prosecuted hundreds and hundreds of DUIs, both misdemeanor and felony. So she knew exactly what she was. They both knew. They were both great guests. I want to thank them again on that. Now, what I want to emphasize on here is a couple of things. First of all, if you get stopped for anything, first of all, don't talk to the cops. Please don't talk to the cops. You give me a license, you give me a registration, you give me insurance, and that's it. You act calm, like she said. You are polite. I don't disrespect people as well. You give them what they deserve. Don't ever, ever let them search your car. You know, the old, oh, if you have nothing to hide, why don't you let me look in it? First of all, guys, they could rip your car apart and you have nothing to say. Literally, they do it. They literally rip a car apart and leave the crap there and you got to clean it. If they don't plant something, and you know that's going on. Listen, this happened 3.5 years ago, and things have gotten even worse, sadly, and that's what it is. So if you get stopped, first of all, don't even take that test. I know Marcell Ozuna did, professional athlete, doesn't understand the laws in the United States. You don't take the breathalyzer, which he didn't, and you don't take any kind of test. You know, all those tests are designed to do is to get evidence against you. That's all they're to do. So people say, "Oh, but Larry, they're not proving that I'm innocent." Well, I'm gonna give you the results of this case. Marcell Ozuna did not get charged with the DUI. They dropped the DUI and they got him for reckless driving. Now, they do that a lot in a lot of cases. In fact, in the state of Florida, there's certain counties that will your first DUI, long as there's no bodily injury or death, serious stuff like that, they're going to drop it to a reckless. It's kind of like to give you a break. Because let me tell you something, a DUI on your record is literally worse than a third-degree felony, because you have insurance implications. You have if you have a multiple, forget it. Then it's going to be a really hard time. Your insurance is going to go through the roof, price wise, and a bunch of stuff like that. So first of all, Marcell Ozuna, good for him. He was not convicted of a DUI. He did get reckless driving. Uh, and I can't. Some people say, "Why don't you fight that?" We don't know what the dash cam saw on his car, when the cop pulled it over. So now I'm going to get into the part of the plot that I missed. And I told you, don't give tests, don't give them any evidence, because you could blow zeros, you can do it perfect, obviously, and you still get arrested. So you're going to get arrested and then you work from there. Now, here's the problem I had with this and I watched this now so many times, and I'm surprised I wasn't as mad as I was, as I am even now. I'm going to pass this video around because can you believe that cop put that athlete out in the open to take a piss? The reason I'm saying that is because a very, very close friend of mine, a firefighter for the Brevard County Fire Department, lieutenant, in fact, he gets arrested. Listen to this, for urinating in the street by a cop. Believe it or not, it was not in front of people. I know the case. It was at a fair. He went behind tents, away from everybody, on a side street even. He had to relieve himself. There was nowhere to go. The bars, in fact, when he was there, it was closing. All the bars were closed. You couldn't even do that. And the cop arrested him. So we do know that urinating in the street is a misdemeanor. Now, if you do it in front of people, that could be lewd and exposure to a child or somebody else. Now, what happens if Marcell Ozuna turned around and his junk is hanging out? What are you going to say? It's on him? He is in custody. That officer had no business doing that. That officer could have took him to any place where that's open and just had him urinate there. There's a crowd building. And I keep thinking about that, and I go, what was he thinking? And even the attorney said she never saw that in all her time. Think of that. What came of that? I don't know, because I made a phone call and they said nothing. They didn't even want to address the case. And I just said it was a Marcell Ozuna, and they told me the outcome and everything else like that. But no, the officer was then reprimanded for letting a man urinate in the street. Listen to me. Do they not think, I often think that cops put themselves in listen, I am not anti-police. People who know me know that. I sadly gotta say, I know good cops. I know there's a guy who comes out, Joe's a good trooper Joe, I call him. He's from Pennsylvania, great guy. Talk to him. I know a bunch of other good cops personally, uh, but I also know some bad ones. Uh, we're looking at that. I just don't know what's going on. The attorney said it back then that they have to retrain and stuff. You sure do. But how do you train that? How do you train morality? How do you train common sense? You shouldn't do that to a citizen who has nobody there because you don't know. If there was a kid that was running playing tag, who knows, and seen that. I mean, now but it's not on Ozuna. It's on the officer because he's in his custody. And you got to remember how that works, guys. It's in his custody. So I'm kind of really disappointed in the system. I'm kind of disappointed I didn't really get on this a little bit more because it just boggles my mind. First of all, it boggles my mind that guy did that test. I watched that thing again and again, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't come close to doing any one of those tests right now, even remotely like that guy. And obviously, I learned a lot from that video. I learned what the doc said. He did 3 senses, and if you lose 2 of them, there's no way you could do the things he did, walk a straight line. You're gonna fall. This guy was totally not should have never even been arrested for DUI. Should have been getting a ticket on the spot for whatever he did driving, in my opinion. Uh, Obviously, it's my opinion. But I want to know what you guys think. Please like, comment, subscribe. I really appreciate it. I've been loving going to the comments, checking them out now. I'm going to be doing that too. I'm loving what I'm doing again. And thank you. I want to thank everybody who's supported me through ups and downs, health issues, everything else. I really do. Thank you, everybody. You guys are the greatest. Have a great day, please, everybody. Stay safe, and make good choices. That's all it's about. Take care, everybody. See you in the next video.